Welcome, dear listeners, to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, unraveling the mysteries of human civilization. Today, we find ourselves in the midst of a fascinating tale, one that whispers secrets of power, loyalty, and the intricate dance of empires. We are about to delve into the captivating story of the Mamluks, a dynasty that rose like a phoenix from the ashes of a bygone era, leaving an indelible mark on the tapestry of history. As we begin our exploration, let us set the stage in the 9th century, a time of great upheaval and transformation in the Islamic world. The Abbasid Caliphate, which had once been the epitome of power and sophistication, was beginning to show signs of decline. It was amidst this backdrop of instability that the institution of the Mamluks began to take shape. In the year 786, the Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid, who ruled from 786 to 809, initiated a policy of recruiting slave soldiers from the borders of the empire. These slaves, often captured during military campaigns or purchased from slave traders, were brought back to the caliphate and trained in the art of warfare. The city of Baghdad, with its majestic mosques and vibrant markets, was the epicenter of Abbasid power, and it was here that the Mamluks began to make their mark. The caliphs, seeking to consolidate their power and secure their borders, relied increasingly on these elite soldiers to maintain order and stability within the empire. One of the key figures involved in the development of the Mamluk institution was the Abbasid Caliph al-Ma'mun, who ruled from 813 to 833. During his reign, al-Ma'mun oversaw a significant expansion of the Mamluk corps, recruiting thousands of slave soldiers from Central Asia and training them in the art of warfare. The recruitment of Mamluks was often facilitated by slave traders, who would travel to the steppes of Central Asia in search of young men with martial potential. These slaves were then brought back to the caliphate, where they would be trained in the art of warfare and converted to Islam. The process of conversion was often a gradual one, with the slaves being introduced to the teachings of Islam through a combination of education and cultural assimilation. The Mamluks were quartered in special barracks, known as Turkish quarters, where they would receive their training and be indoctrinated into the ways of Islam. As we explore the earliest history of the Mamluks, we find ourselves in the midst of a complex web of intrigue and politics. The caliphs, who had once been the absolute rulers of the empire, were now beginning to rely on the Mamluks to maintain their power. This shift in dynamics would have far-reaching consequences as the Mamluks began to exert their influence over the caliphate. In 836, the Abbasid Caliph al-Mu'tasim, who ruled from 833 to 842, established a new capital at Samarra, which would become a major center of Mamluk power. The city of Samarra, with its majestic architecture and vibrant markets, was a testament to the wealth and sophistication of the Abbasid Caliphate. It was here that the Mamluks began to build their own mosques, schools, and barracks, establishing themselves as a distinct and powerful force within the empire. As we conclude our examination of the earliest history of the Mamluks, we find ourselves at the threshold of a new era, one marked by the ascendance of these slave soldiers to positions of power and influence. The stage is set for the emergence of a unique and fascinating civilization, one that would leave an indelible mark on the course of human history. Join me next as we venture into the heart of the Mamluks' most pivotal period, where intrigue, politics, and warfare would intertwine to forge a dynasty that would captivate the imagination of the world. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, where we continue our journey through the captivating story of the Mamluks. Today, we find ourselves in the midst of the Mamluks' most pivotal period, where intrigue, politics, and warfare would intertwine to forge a dynasty that would captivate the imagination of the world. In the 13th century, the Mamluks had established themselves as the dominant force in Egypt, having overthrown the Ayyubid dynasty in 1250. The city of Cairo, with its majestic mosques and vibrant markets, was the epicenter of Mamluk power, and it was here that the sultans would rule with an iron fist. One of the key figures involved in the consolidation of Mamluk power was Sultan Qutuz, who ruled from 1259 to 1260. During his reign, Qutuz oversaw a significant expansion of the Mamluk army, recruiting thousands of slave soldiers from Central Asia and training them in the art of warfare. The Mamluks were renowned for their military prowess, and their armies would go on to conquer much of the Middle East, including present-day Syria, Palestine, and parts of Turkey. The Battle of Ain Jalut in 1260, where the Mamluks defeated the Mongol Empire, marked a significant turning point in their history, as it secured their position as a dominant force in the region. This victory was largely due to the military genius of Sultan Qutuz and his successor, Sultan Baybars, who ruled from 1260 to 1277. Baybars, also known as Al-Malik al-Zahir, was one of the most famous Mamluk sultans, and his reign is often referred to as the Golden Age of the Mamluk dynasty. During his rule, Baybars oversaw a series of military campaigns that expanded Mamluk territory, including the conquest of the Crusader states in Palestine and the capture of the strategic city of Antioch. He also established a network of spies and informants throughout the region, which helped to maintain stability and security within the empire. The Mamluks were not only skilled warriors, but also patrons of the arts and architecture. The city of Cairo was transformed during this period with the construction of grand mosques, madrasas, and palaces. The Mosque of Sultan Hassan, built in 1361, is a testament to the architectural prowess of the Mamluks with its intricate stone carvings and majestic dome. The Mamluks also patronized scholars and intellectuals, establishing a vibrant cultural scene that attracted scholars from all over the Islamic world. As we explore this pivotal period in Mamluk history, we find ourselves in the midst of a complex web of intrigue and politics. The sultans, who had once been the absolute rulers of the empire, were now surrounded by powerful emirs or generals who vied for power and influence. This led to a series of palace coups and assassinations as different factions within the Mamluk elite sought to consolidate their power. Despite these challenges, the Mamluks continued to thrive, and their dynasty would go on to shape the course of Middle Eastern history for centuries to come. The period between 1260 and 1382 is often referred to as the Bakri period, during which the Mamluks were at the height of their power and influence. It was a time of great cultural and intellectual achievement, marked by significant advances in fields such as medicine, astronomy, and literature. As we conclude our examination of this pivotal period in Mamluk history, we find ourselves at the threshold of a new era, one marked by the decline of the Bahri dynasty and the rise of the Burji dynasty. The stage is set for a new series of challenges and opportunities, as the Mamluks would face threats from external enemies, including the Ottoman Empire, and internal power struggles that would shape the course of their history. Welcome back to our journey through the captivating story of the Mamluks. In this final chapter of the Mamluk story, we find ourselves in the midst of the decline and fall of this fascinating dynasty. The 14th century marked a significant turning point in Mamluk history, as the Black Death swept through Egypt, decimating the population and crippling the economy. This had a devastating impact on the Mamluk army, which was heavily reliant on slave soldiers from Central Asia. The Burji dynasty, which rose to power in 1382, would go on to rule Egypt for over a century. However, their reign was marked by internal power struggles and external threats. The Ottomans, who had been expanding their empire in the region, posed a significant challenge to Mamluk authority. In 1507, the Ottoman Sultan Selim I launched a campaign against the Mamluks, which culminated in the Battle of Ridanya. The battle was a decisive victory for the Ottomans, and it marked the end of the Mamluk dynasty. The last Mamluk Sultan, al-Ashraf Kansu al-Guri was killed in the battle, and Egypt was absorbed into the Ottoman Empire. The city of Cairo, which had once been the epicenter of Mamluk power, was now a provincial capital under Ottoman rule. As we reflect on the decline and fall of the Mamluk dynasty, it's clear that their legacy extends far beyond their military conquests. They were patrons of the arts and architecture, and their cultural achievements continue to inspire wonder and awe today. The Mosque of Sultan Hassan, which we mentioned earlier, is just one example of the many architectural treasures that the Mamluks left behind. The Mamluks also played a significant role in shaping the course of Middle Eastern history. They were a major force in the region for centuries, and their interactions with other empires, including the Crusaders and the Mongols, had far-reaching consequences. As the historian Ibn Khaldun once said, the Mamluks were a dynasty like no other, for they were at once slaves and sultans, warriors and patrons of the arts. As we conclude our journey through the story of the Mamluks, we're reminded that history is full of complex and fascinating stories waiting to be uncovered. The Mamluks may be gone, but their legacy lives on, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and creativity. In the words of the great Arab historian al-Makrizi, the Mamluks were a dynasty that was born in slavery but died in glory. Their story is a reminder that even the most unlikely of beginnings can lead to greatness, and that the course of history is always shaped by the complex interplay of human agency and circumstance. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the captivating story of the Mamluks. Until next time, farewell. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.